You know those picture-perfect travel reels of sapphire-blue glaciers that make you want to quit life and book a one-way to Iceland? Well, this isn't that kind of fantasy, because beneath all that ice is a different story, one that belches up centuries-old corpses, toxic relics, and microscopic ancient life nobody asked for. Climate change is cracking open Earth's oldest deep freeze, and what's seeping out isn't just water, it's a chilling surge of forgotten history, ominous red flags, and occasionally a glittering cache of treasure. These aren't tall tales or clickbait. They're real discoveries unearthed from the permafrost, and each one is more unsettling, more bizarre than the last. Number 15. Swiss couple buried in Glacier. In 1942, Swiss dairy farmers Marcelin and Francine Dumoulin left their home to tend their cattle and never returned. For decades, their disappearance haunted the village, with rumors swirling that they'd fallen into a crevasse. But no one found anything. That changed in 2017 when a ski lift technician spotted two frozen figures lying side by side on a glacier. They were still holding each other. DNA testing confirmed the couple's identity. Their clothes, shoes, ration cards, and even a pocket watch were still intact, preserved in solid ice for 75 years. Their children, now elderly, were finally able to say goodbye, though seeing their parents like that, suspended in time, was devastating. The couple had been swallowed by the glacier in a single misstep and returned as if they'd never left. It wasn't just a discovery, it was closure buried under snow. A haunting snapshot of love, death, and the kind of silence only glaciers can keep for generations. Number 14. Alaska Sips Bomber Glacier. In Alaska's Talkeetna Mountains, hikers crossing the snowfield known as Bomber Glacier are unaware they're stepping over a Cold War zone. In 1957, a TB-29 Superfortress crashed during a military training flight, killing 6 people. While the bodies were recovered, much of the aircraft was left embedded in the glacier. Decades later, the fuselage, engines, and cockpit glass remained scattered across the terrain, some still partially frozen, others rusted in place. Hikers report spotting twisted sections of wing and torn metal panels, and there are rumors, never officially confirmed, of live ordnance still buried deep under the ice. The site has become a landmark for backcountry trekkers, less for its view and more for what lies beneath it. It's a raw reminder that some crash sites don't vanish, they just go dormant. And as temperatures continue to rise, what's been sealed in snow for over 60 years might not stay hidden much longer. Number 13. Ancient bacteria in Scarisawara. When scientists drilled into ancient cave ice in Romania back in 2020, they expected dormant microbes. What they found were bacterial strains already resistant to modern antibiotics. Ice cores from the Scarisawara cave contained 68 unique strains, some of which carried genetic mutations that rendered common antibiotics useless. What shocked researchers most wasn't the presence of bacteria, but that some strains had developed antibiotic resistance long before humans discovered penicillin. These aren't lab-spawned superbugs. They're ancient survivors with natural immunity, shaped by environmental pressures over thousands of years. The concern now is more than academic. As glaciers thaw, these resilient microbes could mix with today's bacteria, potentially sharing resistance genes and accelerating the global antibiotic crisis. It's a biological time capsule with a dangerous twist, ancient DNA with lessons we're not ready for. Climate change isn't just melting glaciers, it's unlocking microbial libraries that could rewrite modern medicine. What lies beneath the ice isn't dead, it's waiting to join the present. Number 12. Frozen soldier corpses of World War I. Back in 2012, as glaciers receded near Italy's Presena Pass, the preserved bodies of 2 young Austrian soldiers emerged from the ice, eerily intact after nearly a century. Both were teenagers, their blonde hair and pale blue eyes hauntingly vivid. They had died during World War I, in a brutal high-altitude conflict fought in the Dolomites, where soldiers battled not just enemy fire but freezing temperatures and avalanches. These two were killed in combat or crushed under snow and entombed by glacial ice ever since. When archaeologists examined them, they found bullet wounds in their skulls, but what struck them most was how contemporary the bodies looked, as if time hadn't passed at all. Their discovery near the ski town of Pico serves as a chilling reminder that entire battles lie frozen in silence, waiting to resurface. The soldiers' families likely never learned what became of them. Now, their scary remains and their war are being unearthed, one thawed relic at a time, as the Alps quietly give up their dead. Number 1. Glacial DDT. Every spring, the thaw releases more than meltwater. It trickles out decades of industrial residue once assumed safely buried. Back in 2008, Antarctic ice core samples showed something super alarming. Glacial layers formed during the 1960s and 70s, peak pesticide years, are now releasing measurable amounts of DDT into the ocean. Dichlorodyphenyl trichloroethane, better known as DDT, was globally banned after being linked to ecological collapse and human health issues. But this chemical clings to cold surfaces like glue, meaning glaciers functioned as vast, frozen filters, quietly soaking up decades of airborne contamination. Now that same contamination is bleeding back into marine ecosystems. Scientists found elevated levels of DDT in krill, fish tissue, and even penguin fat. As climate change speeds up glacial melt, these trapped toxins re-enter the food chain, creating a long, slow feedback loop that nature never asked for. What was once frozen is now flowing. The very chemicals humanity outlawed are quietly returning drip by drip into waters that were never meant to carry them. It's disturbing. Number 10. Treasure found on French glacier. While crossing a glacier on Mont Blanc in 2013, a young climber's boot dislodged something unexpected, a rusted tin box poking through the snow. Inside was a fortune in gems, roughly 100 emeralds, rubies and sapphires, glinting like they'd been placed there yesterday. But they hadn't. The treasure had been airborne in 1966, when Air India Flight 101 collided with the mountain. The climber didn't keep the haul. He turned it in to authorities. Later, Indian officials traced the gems to the plane's passenger manifest. It was proof that even riches thought obliterated by impact could ride out decades inside the glacier's grip. The case also sparked conversations about the dozens of other unrecovered valuables still trapped in Mont Blanc's ice, waiting for gravity or sunlight to bring them to the surface. In a world where glaciers are melting faster every year, even the wreckage of old disasters can flash like treasure in the sun, and sometimes it really is. Number 9. Norway sits Viking Highway. At first glance, the Lindbreen ice patch in Norway's mountains looked like just another melting glacier. Then artifacts began surfacing, hundreds of them, traced back nearly 2 millennia. Discovered in 2011, this high-altitude pass turned out to be a major route during the Roman Iron Age, bustling with merchants, messengers, and livestock. Archaeologists recovered over 1,000 items, including leather shoes, wool mittens, horse bones, and a perfectly intact tunic. One iron bridle piece confirmed the route once we saw organized traffic, not just wandering travelers. Radiocarbon dating revealed that the trail was most active between 300 and 1000 CE, upending long-held beliefs that these peaks were largely untraveled. Each melting season pulls more evidence from the ice, proving that climate change isn't just shrinking glaciers, it's rewriting maps. What was once dismissed as wilderness is now a frozen archive of movement, trade, and survival. The mountain pass was never forgotten. It just waited for the ice to move aside. Number 8. Gauley Glacier sits, time capsule plane. In 1946, a U.S. Air Force plane went down over Switzerland's Gauley Glacier. All 12 passengers survived, rescued days later in what became a milestone in alpine air rescue history. But the wreck itself was swallowed by ice. For decades it remained entombed, until summers began pulling the past back into daylight. Hikers now pass fragments of twisted aluminum and broken propellers, still half buried in snow. Oxygen tanks sit dented but whole, as if the crash happened last month, not nearly 80 years ago. Local officials collect the debris piece by piece, but the glacier refuses to give it all at once. Each thaw reveals a little more, like bolts, seat frames, and even chunks of landing gear. What had once been assumed lost forever is re-emerging like a slow confession. The aircraft was once a rescue story. Now it's a glacial artifact bleeding into the surface year by year, pulled back from silence by the warming world and the patience of ice. Number 7. Frozen baby mammoth in Yukon. Not all frozen finds are terrifying. Some, like the discovery of this baby mammoth in Yukon, are extraordinary in a different way. Unearthed in 2022 during gold mining operations at Eureka Creek, the calf is over 30,000 years old, yet incredibly well preserved. This is the most complete mammoth ever found in North America, rivaling the famous 2007 Siberian discovery of Lyuba, a 42,000-year-old mammoth from Russia. The Canadian specimen was found by accident when a bulldozer struck something unusual in the mud. It wasn't just bone, this was skin, fur, even delicate features intact. The miner called in his supervisor, and the result was one of the most significant Ice Age discoveries on the continent. Previous finds had only yielded partial skeletons. This one had everything. Paleontologists believe the specimen can offer rare insights into mammoth biology, migration, and even climate conditions during the Ice Age. In a region known more for gold than fossils, this accidental find was a jackpot of a very different kind. Number 6. The Everest Boot Mystery. On Everest's northern face, 100 years after George Mallory and Andrew Irvine vanished near the summit, a single boot emerged from melting snow, and it still had a foot inside. The mountaineers disappeared in 1924, decades before Hillary and Norgay's famous ascent. Mallory's body was found in 1999, frozen and broken near the death zone. Irvine remained lost until 2024, when a film crew documenting glacier loss on Everest spotted a leather boot half buried in the snow, complete with initials sewn inside. DNA testing is underway, but if confirmed, the find could reshape Everest history and reignite debates over who truly reached the top first. Whether or not Irvine stood on the summit, his frozen return after a century offers something more profound, a glimpse of just how little Everest forgets. As its icy skin continues to peel away, the mountain is surrendering stories once thought permanently buried. Some legends disappear into fog, others wait patiently in the cold. Alright guys, now let's move to number 5. Camp Century Sits Leaking Legacy. Beneath Greenland's ice cap lies a long-abandoned U.S. military outpost built during the Cold War, along with a sealed vault of nuclear waste thawing far sooner than expected. Camp Century, built in 1959, operated with a portable nuclear reactor and housed experimental research beneath layers of Arctic snow. When the base was decommissioned in 1967, the Army left behind diesel fuel, raw sewage, radioactive coolant, and pieces of the dismantled reactor, all under the assumption that the ice would entomb it indefinitely. That assumption is collapsing. A 2016 climate report warned that rising temperatures could soon flood the site, flushing toxins like PCBs and low-level radiation into the surrounding environment and eventually the Arctic Ocean. This isn't just a buried hazard, it's a legal and environmental dilemma. Camp Century could force the first multinational cleanup of a facility meant to remain frozen forever. Its skeleton isn't just leaking chemicals, it's leaking the arrogance of an era that never imagined the ice would fight back. Number 4. Frozen Mummy of Pico de Orizaba. Back in 2015, climbers ascending Pico de Orizaba, Mexico's highest peak, stumbled upon a shocking sight, a frozen human head and arm jutting from the snow near the summit. As search crews attempted to retrieve the body, they uncovered a second corpse just 150 meters away. Investigations revealed the remains likely belonged to 2 climbers from a group of 3 who disappeared on the mountain 55 years earlier. The preservation was eerie. Some of their clothing was still intact, offering potential clues for identification. News of the find spread quickly, prompting dozens to contact authorities, hoping to solve long cold cases of lost loved ones. While many details remain uncertain, the discovery reminded climbers of the unforgiving nature of high-altitude expeditions. The mountain doesn't always give back what it takes, but sometimes with time and thaw, it does. For rescuers and family alike, the unearthed bodies were more than frozen relics, they were long-missing people finally found. Number 3. The Blood Falls. More than a century ago, explorers in Antarctica reported a weird phenomenon, an outflow of deep red water spilling from the Taylor Glacier. It looked like blood staining the white ice with crimson streaks. The mystery baffled researchers for decades. Early theories suggested algae, but the real cause turned out to be chemical. The water contained high concentrations of iron trapped beneath the glacier in a sealed, oxygen-deprived environment. When that iron-rich brine finally escaped and hit the air, it oxidized, essentially rusting on contact, turning the water a vivid red. These bloodfalls don't just look eerie, they represent a rare subglacial ecosystem isolated for millions of years. Microbes thrive in that extreme environment without sunlight or oxygen, feeding on iron and sulfur instead. Studying them has helped scientists understand how life might survive on icy planets and moons. The bloodfalls aren't just haunting to look at, they're also one of Earth's best analogs for life beyond our planet, hiding in the cold and bleeding through the cracks. Number 2. Iceland's giant glacier. Iceland's largest glacier, Vatnajökull, is a staggering giant that dominates the southeastern part of the country. Covering nearly 8% of Iceland's total landmass, it stretches across approximately 8,100 to 8,300 square kilometers. At its thickest, the ice reaches depths of over 1,000 meters, while its average thickness ranges between 400 and 500 meters. With an estimated volume of more than 3,000 cubic kilometers, Vatnajökull holds immense reserves of fresh water. It feeds countless rivers, powers hydroelectric plants, and shapes much of Iceland's dramatic landscape. But its size isn't what unsettles people. It's the thought of it disappearing. If global temperatures continue to rise, this glacier, like many others, will retreat at an accelerating pace. And if it melts entirely, the ecological consequences for Iceland and beyond could be severe. Vatnajökull isn't just a frozen mass, it's a lifeline. Its looming presence reminds us how fragile even the most colossal forces of nature can be in the face of a warming planet. Number 1. The Gambert Sev Mountains. Beneath the frozen vastness of Antarctica lies a mountain range that most people still don't know exists. The Gambert Sev Mountains span nearly 750 miles, with peaks reaching over 9,000 feet, completely entombed under nearly 2,000 feet of compacted ice and snow. First identified by Soviet scientists back in 1958, the range remains one of Earth's least explained phenomena. What's baffling is its condition. While believed to be around 100 million years old, the Gambert Sevs are jagged and sharp, far more like the youthful Rockies than the time-worn Appalachians. The mystery lies in their preservation. Unlike exposed ranges shaped by weather, this one was sealed beneath Antarctica's ice sheet early in its history, protected from erosion ever since. That natural cryopreservation may explain why these ancient mountains still appear geologically fresh. Researchers continue to scan and study the range, hoping it may hold clues about tectonic shifts, ice sheet development, and even ancient life. For now, it remains a frozen anomaly, a fully formed range untouched by time. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for hanging with us, and we'll see you very soon.